All right, I'll call this council meeting to order. The Honorable Britt Blackwell from District 6 has invocation.
If you would join me and bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we ask your wisdom as we make our decisions today. Help us wisely evaluate our options and be unified in making the best possible decisions. May each member of council feel valued, and may we each recognize the skill sets and knowledge each person brings to this council. Give us all clarity of purpose for this meeting. Also, please guide our country during these troubling times. Give our country's leaders your wisdom so our nation can prosper as one nation under God. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, if we could have Billy Hare, Richard Roach, Melissa Scoggins, Sean Schwartout, and Karen Browning come forward to be sworn in.
Each raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been appointed, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state.
Don't breathe hard.
And of the United States. Help me God. Thank you. You're sworn in. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you all for serving. We typically do the handshakes around the table, but all things considered, probably don't need to do that. I understand we don't have any folks signed up for the public forum session. Are there any matters that need to be removed from the consent agenda?
Number 7.
Other than number 7, any other removals? I was told we didn't have any. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Billy. If you want to come forward and give us the quarterly report. Yeah.
Good evening, council, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. And as always, thank you for your service to York County. What I wanted to do tonight is just briefly give you a kind of an update on where we're at. And this will be a tourism update specifically for York County, and to kind of give you an idea on basically starting in about June where we're at. So first, looking at hotel performance, as you can see, 2019 was a record-setting year as far as hotel demand in York County. You can see where 2020 is through the end of through the end of September, and this is hotel demand. So these are the number of rooms that are purchased. We're getting closer to normal, and we look at a 3-year average, because if we look at 2019, it kind of skews the numbers a little bit. But we're looking at a 3-year average, then we're looking at our monthly average daily rate. So that is the average daily rate that a hotel would charge. You can see where we're at on 2020 compared to the 3-year average. And then the graph on the right is RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. That is really how hotels judge themselves on revenue. And you can see where our revenue per available room is compared to the 3-year average. Now, this shows you a little bit closer to normal. This is total number of monthly hotel rooms sold. So you can see in September, we were just about at the 3-year average. Now, when you hear us talk about occupancy numbers and you hear us talk about occupancy numbers being in the 40s and 50%, it's a little bit skewed because we've added 4 hotels, so our supply has gone up and our demand is going up too, but our demand is not going to meet where our supply is. So if we're looking at room to room sold over a 3-year average, you can see in September we were almost back to normal. So then looking at those 3 things, demand, average daily rate, and revenue per available room, you can see the graph on the left is the monthly average, and you can see where we're at as opposed to the 3-year average, and then you can see year to date on the right-hand graph where we're at for demand, ADR, and RevPAR. So you can see we are getting back to normal, but it is a slow climb. So hotels in the pipeline. So we have a supply. Over the last few months, we've added 4 hotels. We've added the True by Hilton in Rock Hill, which was 106 rooms. We've added the Home 2 Suites by Hilton in Fort Mill. There's 110 rooms. We've added the True by Hilton in Fort Mill, 97, and the Wood Spring Suites at Carowinds Boulevard, 122. So we've added 435 rooms since February, taking us to 4,188 rooms. We are getting more hotels. So you can look in Rock Hill, the new Cambria Hotel at Rock Hill University Center, which is right outside the front door of the Sports and Events Center, will be opening in late 2020, early 2021, 126 rooms there. Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Rock Hill, which is beside the Hilton Garden Inn, adding 92 rooms. In Fort Mill, we're adding the Town Place Suites at Carowinds Boulevard, 112 rooms, and the Avid, which is beside McDonald's at Carowinds Boulevard, adding 95 rooms. So we will be adding another 425 rooms in the next few months. We also have a hotel that has rebranded, the Baymont Rock Hill, which is over near the old Kmart. That is now a Clarion Point. We toured that on Friday. They have done a fantastic job remodeling that hotel. So we get our tourism economic numbers in about September of every year, looking at the previous year, and that comes from the South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. So looking at our 2019 report card for economic contribution, domestic tourists spent $271.2 million in York County in 2019. That is a 4.9 increase year over year. Now, directly supporting 2.4 thousand jobs, which is up 3.3% year over year. Those jobs produce $48.2 million in personal income in York County, contributing $6.3 million to local tax revenue. That is up 5% year over year. And also those same visitors coming to York County contribute $18.7 million to state tax revenue, up 6% year over year. As I talk about just about every time I come, tourism is big business in York County. So tourism tax relief, taxes generated by domestic visitor spending reduced each York County's household state and local tax burden by $254. That same number was $245 last year. So because of tourism in York County, each property owner pays $254 less in taxes. So where do we rank as far as counties in South Carolina when it comes to tourism spending? We are now number 10. We have been at number 10 for the last few years, and you see where we rank inside of those counties. So when we're talking about spending growth when it comes to tourism, you'll see for the last 5 years, we have seen an increase in tourism spending. So the graph on the bar on the right is York County, the one in the middle, South Carolina, the one on the left is the US. So in 2015, our tourism spending rose 4%. In 2016, it rose 5.4%, and that is year over year. In 2017, it rose 8% year over year. 2018, 5.5%, and 2019, 4.9%. So it gives us 5 straight years of exceeding the South Carolina state average on tourism spending. So looking at kind of transitioning from 2019 into the first quarter of fiscal year 2021, July 1 to September 30th. As we've talked about before, we have a great partnership with Rock Hill PRT that is paying dividends every single week. And you'll see the events that we're talking about for the first 3 months of the fiscal year. We've hosted 73 events with 51,459 participants, 112,475 spectators, 80,431 overnight attendees, and 83,504 day attendees. So a total attendance of 163,935. So we are estimating a total economic impact of direct spending of $29.8 million in York County in the first 3 months of this fiscal year. I can tell you that the hotels are thankful. The restaurants are thankful. The attractions that are open are thankful, because without these events, they would be struggling more than they are right now. And there would be a lot less people employed than there are right now because of these events coming to York County. So give you a few updates on the organization. We've added 2 new staff members. We've added a VP of Research and Market Analysis, and that is Elizabeth Shanneman. She comes to us, she was a research analyst with the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is a tremendous asset to our organization. We've also added Mallory Snyder. Mallory is our VP of Business Development. She comes to us as the Director of Operations for the Tampa St. Petersburg Economic Development Corporation. So 2 extremely talented people that have joined our organization in the last few months. We held a Catawba River meeting a couple of months ago. Mr. Madden was in attendance. We had 11 organizations represented. One thing that COVID-19 told us, we knew that a lot of people were getting on the river. We also now know that that is an issue, because we're having problems at the top, we're having problems at the bottom, but the Catawba River is a tremendous tourist draw to York County. But we've got to harness that, and we've got to put together an operational plan to get people safely on the river and off the river. And while they're here, we want them spending money. We want them buying gas and eating in our restaurants and shopping in our shops. So we've got to do a better job of making sure we get them on the river safely and off the river safely. So this was our first meeting of putting all of those representatives together in the same room, hearing what the issues are and trying to solve those issues. We will have another meeting with that group the first of the year. So we're kind of excited about where that is heading. The Yoko Taste Trail will start its 2nd year in January. We have 15 new stops there. We're excited about the Taste Trail. Also, the Battle at the Rock Basketball Showcase. This will be the 3rd year that we've hosted it. It is at the Rock Hill Sports and Events Center. The boys group will play December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The girls will play December 11th and 12th. We have some of the top players and teams in the country coming to this event, and we will have limited capacity at the Sports and Events Center. Now, I didn't get a chance to put this into my slides, but I wanted to let you know, as you know, Field Day Park opened a few weeks ago, and we are hard at work working to put events in that facility. Right now, we are actually in very deep discussions and negotiations with 7 events to go into Field Day Park. We have 2 youth soccer events that will use that facility in 2021. We have a USA Football, a national football recruiting organization is wanting to put their national regionals there in April of 2021. And we have Blazing 7-on-7, which is a national flag football organization that is looking at putting 4 events there in May of 2021, including their national championship tournament. So working very closely with Jason over there at Field Day Park and looking forward to hopefully being able to make these events happen in 2021. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Billy. Any questions from council?
I have one.
Sure.
What does a limited capacity look like at the sports events? And what kind of numbers?
We have to submit to the Department of Commerce for approval on capacity. Our capacity for those events will be 750, and this is just in the arena. So we'll be able to have 750 total people in there. So we're selling 600 tickets to each session.
Is that what Rock Hill's been abiding by at some of the previous events, or is this something new?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Has Rock Hill been abiding by those limited numbers as well?
Yes, every event that is in the Sports and Event Center has to be submitted to the Department of Commerce, and then they give you a capacity on the event on how many people you can have in there. And they're doing it on a monthly basis. So we were approved for 750 people, total number of people inside the facility.
And how has the hotel partnerships been? Is that still coming along pretty good?
Oh, the hotel partnership's going great. We just signed our 22nd hotel into the program last week. So yeah, that is going well. Still struggling with COVID numbers in the hotels, but 22 hotels are participating right now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I do have one question, so rather than leave and wonder, I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. Explain the, down in the bottom right-hand corner of one of the slides, it was each county property owner, a reduced tax burden of $254. How in the world do we come up with that number?
That is a number that South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism gives us, and it's based on all the factors of taxes that are paid, whether it be local, state, federal, on the different types of taxes that you pay while you're in your county, whether it be hospitality tax, accommodations tax, pennies, any tax that you pay, and that lessens the burden on the individual property owner in the taxes that they would have to pay, because that is going towards that figure. Kevin may be able to answer this question better than I can. That's a formula that South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism gives us, and it, if you ask me to diagram it how it's laid out, I couldn't answer that question.
I mean, it sounds like we're saying that every taxpayer pays $254 less than what they would pay.
If there were no visitors coming to your county,
Yeah.
that they would pay $254 more in taxes throughout the year as they do now.
Okay. We'll talk about that, Kevin.
And I'll be glad to get you the formula. But I didn't come prepared to do math, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Billy. We appreciate it. We have no one in public forum session. I understand we need to remove number 7 from consent agenda, which will now be moved to number 3 under new business. Any other removals from consent agenda? Do we have a motion on consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Consent agenda approved unanimously. Public hearing. Council to hold a public hearing and consider second reading of an ordinance to amend the 2035 York Forward Comprehensive Plan by abandoning the Dave Lyle Boulevard Extension Corridor Small Area Plan and adopting corresponding amendments to the future land use map pursuant to the Code of Laws of South Carolina, Title VI, Chapter 29, entitled the South Carolina Local Government Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act of 1994, to hold a public hearing and to provide for other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Do we have another motion?
Move to approve.
Second for discussion.
Would you like to speak or you want me to?
Have at it. I would like some more explanation by staff. I mean, last time, we basically said, we'd all like to get our arms around this a little bit more. Brett had some concerns that he raised regarding the fact that the York Forward Plan did not include any demarcation regarding the Dave Lyle extension that had been in the small area plan. I believe that staff has now included some demarcation showing where that road was, so at least it's penciled in to provide notice to whoever's interested that there is some indication that there may be an extension coming through this area. So I think we still have a lot of work to do regarding anything having to do with Dave Lyle and making sure that we're all on the same page with all the stakeholders, including our friends at the city, and everyone here on council needs to be in agreement with what it is that we're doing. And I think there's still a little bit of a shortfall of information that I think everyone needs to have a better comfort level with it. But it's my understanding that continuing on this path would not preclude us from being able to get further into more comprehensive planning as a group. So for that reason, I'd be fine with voting for it tonight.
David, just to address the question, I think it'd be, do you agree with the assessment that was just made in terms of
Yes,
the road still being possible and included, but we needing to move forward with the changes to the land use map?
yes, we've, as council instructed at the last meeting, we have included the line that was formerly on the map and is also approved by the RFAT committee. We've included a couple other alternatives that are not were not drawn with any real engineering consideration, but we did try to follow current roadway alignments and things like that. But really just to demonstrate that the ultimate route that may be selected is probably none of these three, but just to show kind of what would be considered when trying to locate a future Dave Lyle Boulevard extension. So I think this gives us the ability to show that on a map and demonstrate that we're considering those alignments.
Dr. Lockel?
And David, so just to make sure I understand the map, the yellow dotted hash line is the RFAT's original proposal?
That is
Right.
correct.
And then the blue and the purple are alterations that might be workable?
Yeah, I don't know how workable other than, because there's a lot of considerations, wetlands and everything like that, but they demonstrate kind of some borders that would be considered using what we know about current road alignments and what creeks and wetlands are currently exist.
So the most important factor for me is the permanent map, Exhibit A, is going to show those potential 3 delineations now, correct?
That is correct. It'll be on the map.
And per what I said at the last council meeting, if there was a delineation not noting a concrete location for a Dave Lyle Boulevard extension, but at least noting the reality of that, so if future developers or whoever kind of look at land and want to build 1,000 homes or whatever, they can get this signal to back off and understand that there's got to be some right-of-way, which per the chairperson's comments at the last meeting, governing bodies, i.e. Lancaster County, York County, maybe the city of Rock Hill will get together and kind of come up with a plan in that regard for the potential extension of that Dave Alberta Boulevard extension for a relief valve, or even if nothing else, a good conduit to the 2,000-acre park that we're going to hopefully have something there that's a tourism attraction for not just York County, but for the southeast. So if that's included and will be there until a final adjustment's made, I can support it now. So I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Any other questions or comments? On this one in particular, I think that changes to the land use map, we obviously need to do what we need to do to recognize the fact that the council approved different land uses that exist out there and to recognize the park. And we obviously need that to be done. And what I hear council saying is we're committed to looking at what this corridor needs to look like in the future, assuming this passes, that we look at that in the next 6 months and that we have conversations with folks who would need to be a part of that discussion to see if and how something like that would look. So I will support this. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. New business, consider a request from the coroner for approval of funding a deputy coroner position that is currently funded by a grant which will expire at the end of December 2020. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Roddy, would you like to comment?
No, I would just, I know part of what we typically do when we see a department come forward with a grant to support a temporary position, we clearly state that these positions are only temporary as long as the grant lasts. And it's been extremely difficult for this body to move forward with implementing a full-time position once these grants go away. We try to stick to what we say in the previous arrangement when we receive these grants. I don't want department heads or anyone else to get the notion that if I can get a temporary grant to supply or fund a position for a certain amount of time, that's just a segue or a backdoor way of making that position a full-time position. But I would like to, at some point, hear from our coroner about this particular position.
Any other questions?
Now.
Any other questions?
No,
You
no,
want- That's fine with me. I mean,
I'm just making a statement.
Sabrina, if you want to come forward, I certainly don't have an objection to that.
Thank you, Councilman Roddy. This position was written for, it was a Paul Coverdell grant that was written specifically for a medical legal death investigator focusing on our drug overdose deaths. We have had a tremendous increase in the number of drug overdose deaths in the last year. This position was specifically for that and working in conjunction with law enforcement, doing scene investigations and making sure that all the evidence is collected properly and is in the right agency's hands. She also is responsible for making sure that toxicology results are done in a timely manner. They're either transported to SLED or they're sent to the private lab, because we were having some issues with making sure that those were done in a timely fashion. And we can't sign those deaths out without those proper tox results. She's also responsible for being, she takes over the case from the individual investigator. If she's not out on that scene, she'll take that case when it comes into the office the next morning. She goes to all the autopsies and relays information to the pathologist about what was going on scene, and is working hand in hand with law enforcement and the drug enforcement unit. We are also working on doing a drug overdose fatality review committee. That is something that is becoming standard across this country, especially with accredited offices, trying to address the drug overdose issues that each county has, working in conjunction with law enforcement, Keystone, all of the other agencies in the county, trying to figure out what we can do to battle the drug overdose problems that we're having.
Okay. How strained would your staff be without this individual?
Very strained. Our caseload has increased at least 20% from last year's case numbers. We have, the cases are long and cumbersome. I know that Councilman Blackwell had expressed some concerns when I asked for the position, a full-time position last time. You just can't compare apples to apples when it comes to coroner's offices. Not all coroner's offices are accredited offices. Ours is an accredited office, and we have to live up to a higher standard as far as death investigation goes. And we have put forth that standard to the residents of York County, and we intend to uphold that standard. If this position is eliminated, it is going to go ahead, we can't not do what we're doing, but it's gonna fall back on the investigators that are already overworked with the number of cases that they're having, and it's gonna slow things down for us tremendously. And when we slow things down, it slows things down for the residents. So when it takes longer for us to get toxicology results, it takes longer for me to sign a death certificate out, it takes longer for families to get their life insurance, to close out their utilities, to get their life insurance, to get bank accounts, all of those things go on hold. Because unfortunately, in this county, banks will not take a pending investigation death certificate. It has to have a certified cause and manner of death on it, and the more that it takes me longer to get that information, the longer it backs things up.
Okay. I know you've been before us. I've been here 10 years now. You've been before us numerous of times, and I know it feels like pulling teeth to get something out of this council. I know your struggles. Certainly, I want to know more about kind of what's going on. And I've been telling you, I'm going to come take this tour. I'm going to ride with you. You're going to educate me. And I've yet to do it, but I'm going to get there. But I definitely think I can support getting you this position.
Anyone have any other questions?
Dr. Blackwell? I thought your finger was up. No.
I felt like I was in an auction. I kind of scratched my face when you bought something. Sold! I do want to hear the management's recommendation on this.
As the coroner said, we've done an evaluation based on comparison of their office with other coroners' offices. And consistent with the way York County provides staffing for all of ours, we're typically below staffing levels of other counties doing similar functions. The same could be said about the coroner's office, that we have staffing levels that are, the staffing levels in the coroners as compared to other agencies don't show that they are understaffed in the county. They have had increases in their caseload, and in some cases those caseloads have outpaced the increases that we've given them in staffing. But again, in comparison to other agencies, other coroners' offices, they are not understaffed when you make those comparisons.
Can I answer your question?
I'm sorry?
So the management is for this.
No, we're not. No, I'm saying we would not support this, adding staffing there in that office, consistent with the way we run our other offices.
And one thing that got what Mr. Roddy said concerned me, because I don't remember a lot of grants where when they disappear, we just carry it. So that bothered me, but when I saw Tolson and Sheriff Tolson and Solicitor Brackett's letters of how important this position was, I was more open to it. But did that have any basis of preference for management in terms of consideration of this, or
I'm sorry, consideration?
of supporting this or not? Their reiteration for a written letter to council that they thought it was very important.
Well, I mean, again, that's, I think each elected official operates their offices based on what is important to them. I think the only comparison that we can make is how they are staffed in comparison with other agencies. And we do not think that they're understaffed when you make those comparisons.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Yes, Mr. Rice.
So we're just basically comparing the number of staff members we have here in York County comparable to, let's say, a Spartanburg or Greenville, and making that determination based off those numbers, or are we looking at caseloads and death? Because every caseload, particularly, sounds like every case is a death. I mean, you're not out investigating robberies or anything. So are we looking at the deaths that's occurring in these different counties and saying, hey, this county has 13 staff members and they had this number of deaths. York County has 10 and we have this number, we have 15 and we have this number of deaths. So how are the deaths coming into play with the staffing? Because I don't want us to just compare staffing numbers to staffing numbers based on our population size.
Right, and we've done both. We compared it both just as a function of population, our population versus the other county's population. But we also used the case numbers that the coroner provided us and their caseload here versus the caseload of other counties. And again, it's not a scientific in all cases, but generally speaking, our staffing levels exceed those of many other offices. Maybe not every one of them, but many of the offices around the state.
So I just want to say that, I guess my first question would, I'd be curious to know why the grant was not awarded again. Maybe that's not a common thing, but I don't think that we should award something just because it was a grant and now that grant is not going to be awarded again. And I think this is outside of our budget cycle. So that kind of bothers me about this. So I would rather be able to have all of our questions asked and maybe we take that tour together.
I can answer that question for you.
I don't, it's not a question.
Oh.
It's more of just that I think it's outside of that. I think it's outside of the budget time, and I'm not in favor of approving a grant. I mean, approving a position that was formerly a grant.
Dr. Black?
So you're saying you'd rather wait until the budget discussion?
Yes.
In March?
And then see all the information and ask more questions about those comparisons and those things. I just don't think the timing is the right time to approve the position.
Unfortunately, I don't think the problem waits for or is related to any of our normal cycles. We've heard from our friends at Keystone, and we've heard from the sheriff and the solicitor and now our coroner about the scope of the issue that the county's facing with opioid-related deaths. We hear about the front end with the attempts to try to prevent those deaths from Keystone and how they're having issues financially with dealing with the scope of the problem. I would support adding the person that you need because you need it. And I'm not relying on the spreadsheet. I'm relying on our folks that are there and looking at the problem every day, and that's you, our sheriff, and our solicitor, and our friends at Keystone who are tasked with these types of issues on a daily basis, and they understand the scope of the problem and have recommended it. So I would support this amendment or this motion at this time because I don't think the problem waits for the budget cycle.
Any other questions or comments from council? I guess I do have a couple of questions. Funding for this position exists through the grant through the end of this year, and is that right? Is that correct?
Yes.
My understanding is through the end of the calendar year, not the fiscal year.
End of December.
So the end of December.
31st.
Are there funds are we in jeopardy if we approve? I mean, what I would prefer that we see, because I think the council is all in agreement that approving a position and it happening this way is a bit of a problem when it comes to council making decisions about grant funds. We don't want to be in a position where we approve grant funds and then we get stuck in this in a lot of different scenarios. I think the problem here, though, is with COVID and opioid. If, as I understood from management, there was not a concern with the funding or finding the funding for this. I think I would prefer that we do it through our next fiscal year and revisit this so that we don't lose an opportunity to do that. But I don't know if there's a willingness to amend the motion to do that.
I agree with Joe. You know, some things can wait, you know, but these deaths are not gonna wait. So I would err on the side of moving forward, not so much being cautious, because, you know, we're in a difficult time right now. And it's kind of like the perfect storm with the opiate situation, the COVID situation, and just life itself. So I think this is one of those issues, to me, that I think we could justify doing it because the times we're in. You know, if this was funding for a basketball tournament, I say we could wait, but this is life happening, and this is life ending right before us. So I would support it now.
Well, I'm hearing no willingness to amend the motion, so I will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Council to approve first reading by title only of an ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Rock Hill and York County relating to the Textile Corridor redevelopment plan, the amended downtown redevelopment plan, Red River redevelopment plan, the Manchester Village redevelopment plan, and other matters relating thereto. Do we have a motion?
Motion to postpone the vote following executive session when we receive advice from our legal counsel.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We now have number 7 from consent agenda. Council to approve award regarding bid number 2705 for the Lake Wiley roadside vegetation management project to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Dixie Lawn Service, Inc. of Kings Mountain, NC, for a total cost of $54,560. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Does the council member who pulled this out want to comment, or are we just
Or I
going
was
to
going to
vote?
let them, are they,
Do you want to comment first? Since you
Well,
made
he
a
pulled it
motion.
out to discuss it, so I'll let him, I don't know what his concerns are.
Dr. Blackwell.
okay. These rules get kind of very flexible. Normally, it's whoever makes the motion first, but whatever. But when I read over this over the weekend, it just obviously caught my eye a little bit. I'm assuming this is C-Fund money, correct?
It is C-Fund money.
And in my 10 years on council, and C-Fund money is the money for roads, for pavements, for sidewalks. But I've never seen it used for cutting the grass, especially when it's DOT's responsibility. I certainly agree that there's areas that are in pretty poor shape. And I understand back per Allison that back in 2008 or somewhere in there that the council member at that time, before I was on council, did kind of the same thing. I'm aware of Councilman Cox before I got on council that he put money on a park in Sharon or somewhere that's not many people have been to, and he got his plaque with his name on it, but I'm not really.
Just to clarify, that's Joe Cox, not this Cox, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I said
You
Joe
just said,
Cox.
I just heard Cox.
Oh, I thought it said Joe Cox, sorry. But anyway, that kind of brings forth red flags in my head. I appreciate the thought there, but since it's DOT's responsibility, and I get it, they're not handling their responsibility. But I just think and it's been done before, so it's not a new precedent, I get it. But in terms of my position, I just don't think C-Fund money that's so rare and so needed should be used in this way, because next thing you know, DOT will say, oh, y'all got that for us, y'all just get that one for us. So I just don't agree with the logic, so I can't support it.
So allow me to explain it to you. It's for sidewalks. It began as an approval, this was last year's C-Funds allocation, actually, and it was to keep the sidewalks clear in Lake Wiley, because our sidewalks are a little different, and they are there's a grass strip between them, so when DOT comes in to cut that, they take a big old piece of machinery and they just cut it, and then the sidewalks are covered in dry, dead grass for months. So these are sidewalks that people use on a daily basis to get back and forth if they work at the Walmart, if they're going back and forth to the school that's along the road there. And so I checked with DOT before I allocated this, and it is, they approved it before I actually allocated. They thought it was a great idea also, because we are set up more like a municipality than some of the more rural areas, and we've got more sidewalks, and frankly, they can't get to them, so they always look bad. So this is an effort to keep our sidewalks clear so that they can be used as they were intended to be used.
Mr. Roddy?
I have a couple questions for Ms. Love as well as staff. So is this a one-time shot in the arm to the area to kind of keep it or get it in shape, or is this going to be something that we look at next year? And
This is be something that I would reallocate again for the same thing.
And you mentioned you check with the, is this an approved use of the funds?
Yes.
To do?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. I would just add that we all get a certain amount of C funds to use in our district, and if one council member wants to use it for an approved use, then I wouldn't stand in that particular council member's way of using it if it's an approved use. Now, if this was being asked for an exception to the uses, I think it may be a stretch, but since it's an approved use, is in the council member's district, I wouldn't stand in the way of any council member using the funds for an approved purpose.
Any other council comments? Dr. Blackwell?
And I appreciate what Mr. Roddy pointed out. Sounds like me talking, because I've said that plenty of times. But even though this is not a first time, it's extremely rare. And I can't remember now what the C funds, was it 350,000, somewhere in there that we've gotten?
We've got to reduce run out this year.
Yeah, this year, in addition to all the things we're trying to do with interchanges and stuff. I mean, the money's even more precious. And I've always felt that way, although that rule was broken back a few years ago by Ms. Love. So I'm playing by the rules that were given to me. And I just don't think it's the proper use when you need so much effort on these roads and stuff and I understand completely, but I think the road's more important than the sidewalk in this case.
As the representative of the people of District 2, respectfully, this is what they want done with the C funds.
Are there any other comments? I believe in number 7, it says that county management, procurement, engineering, and transportation all recommend this. If there's something different, I'd ask that you speak now, forever hold your peace.
We did verify it's an approved use of DOT C funds.
Okay. And it's a District 2 allocation, so I'll support this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Committee and other reports, Finance and Operations meeting, the Honorable Allison Love.
Okay, we had a lot of things for us tonight at 5:30. We approved, or recommended David Fudge to reappoint him for a second term to the Oakdale Fire Department. We recommend Linda Seitz for a first term at Bethel Fire Department. We deferred the appointments for the Old English District. We deferred the appointments for the, let's see, the official name is here, the Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board. For the CVB, we recommend David Angel for District 6 for a first term, and Brown Simpson for District 5 for a second term, and we deferred the Planning Commission appointees tonight. And we had a brief finance report from
You left
Kevin.
off one.
What do you mean?
You didn't mention the deferment of the museum, did you?
Oh, we deferred also, yeah, the Cultural and Heritage Commission, we deferred the decision on that one as well.
Council member, new non-agenda comments. Any council members?
I just want to make a comment. I appreciate staff and council, for all the thoughts and prayers during my downtime. And I know they didn't say it publicly, but I was home and in the hospital with COVID. And it's ironic how I ended up with COVID and I was the one up here pushing for the mask. Whether that had anything to do with it or not, but you know, it's real. It's happening every day. It's even more prevalent today than I think it was several months ago. So I just wanted to thank my fellow council members, our staff members, and people who sent thoughts and prayers and sent love my way during my family's difficult time. And we're still trying to work out some of the kinks from my bout with COVID. So I just want to thank everybody and continue to stress, if at all possible, wear a mask, protect yourself, protect your family, because it's no joke when you can't breathe and you're having respiratory issues, you can't eat, you can't smell. Just want to make sure everybody keeps that in mind and do everything that you can possible to protect yourself and protect your family, and most importantly, protect everyone else. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys.
We're glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have one comment, and it's probably breaking a rule because I know everybody's ready to move, but I've had several folks in my district call me about some items that were raised at a recent meeting where they sat for a good long time and weren't allowed to speak, and raises a whole lot of concern for me. I'm simply pointing this out to council because I think we need to look at this and look into further as to why that didn't happen and what can be done, if anything, to prevent that. I think, to me, that's the one thing that we need to make sure that we allow people to do is to be heard on issues. And so I would ask that staff look into that issue and being heard on the committee meetings locally. And at this time, I will recognize Harry Johnson, who is on the citizens' concerns to address the proposed development on Lazy Hawk Road.
Is this the group you were talking about?
It is.
Hi there, thank you for your time. My name is Harry Johnson. I live at 3591 Enterprise Drive in Rock Hill. And the property borders up to the Blanchard property off Lazy Hawk Road. I'm one of the original property owners that worked with Kerwood Chapel and Joe Blanchard in 1998 to develop this PD. There were no lawyers involved with it at the time. Joe and the property owners were we were all just kind of thrown into a room and told by Kerwood to come up with a plan. And we all did work together. And we worked carefully and thoughtfully and with the best of intentions to come up with a plan and restrictions that would allow Joe's investment to make some money and would also protect the property owners and the land itself. Now, last week there was a zoning appeals meeting, and the lawyers for the PD and the board members got into a very, very large discussion about the definition of the word parallel and how it relates to loading docks. Now, we understand why that was discussed. We understand why it was voted on. But what we, the property owners, don't understand is why we were never allowed to speak during that meeting. We were never allowed to come up and voice an opinion. And what really needed to be discussed was not the definition of the word parallel, but what needed to be discussed was the intentions of Joe Blanchard and the property owners in 1998. And those intentions on that PO, on that PD, were within reason to protect the quality of life of the surrounding property owners. Unfortunately, with us not being able to talk about it and with just going with what the lawyers were discussing, our intentions were just disregarded and never heard from. And that's just wrong. That's what we were told to do in 1998, and that's what we did in 1998. And in 1998, there was never a thought of a 1 million square foot warehouse being built there alongside the property owners. We put in provisions for small warehouses, office buildings, light manufacturing, business parks. Never a 1 million square foot. It never occurred to us. It was just absolutely unthinkable that a 1 million square foot facility was going in there. And during those discussions last week, we, the property owners, would have been very happy to present an option, maybe something absolutely workable between the guys who own the property and the property owners. But we were never allowed to do that. We were just disregarded. We even asked if we could speak during it, and again, we were just disregarded. It was just not a very good evening as far as that segment was concerned. And, we brought it up, and, we were offered the chance to come up here and at least voice what happened and our opinion as to why we needed to speak, and just wanted to make you folks aware of it.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
Just want to find out, so what reason were you given, this is ZBA meeting?
Yes,
So what reason were you given that you could not speak?
none. There was no reason given to us.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We typically use this time frame just to hear from folks who were concerned, and I'm glad that you at least got a chance to speak. We don't typically engage at this point. We just listen to you.
I certainly thank you for your time.
Thank you. R.D. Haley to address council regarding proposed development on Lazy Hawk Road.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. I just want to echo Mr. Johnson's sentiments. In addition to not being allowed to speak, as Harry said, we were not even offered an explanation as to why. We went to the front of the room after the meeting was adjourned and asked, why could we not offer our opposition? We were given no answer, or no satisfactory answer anyway. Also, as Harry said, the word parallel can be defined many ways, and you can argue that all day ad nauseam. The intent of the word in this document was to protect the property owners, as Mr. Johnson said. So it's not so much the word parallel, but the intent of protecting those property owners around that area. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight and offer our oppositions. Also, just one other thing, this meeting went 4.5 hours last week. We were there till 10:30 and sat through the entire meeting and never had our chance to voice our opposition. Every other item did have that opportunity except us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haley. Donnie Christopher to address council regarding proposed development on Lazy Hawk Road.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Peachy.
Donnie Christopher, 2170 Strawberry Road, here tonight. This PD that we're talking about, and it was case number Z20-33. I'm also representing Darren Nichols, which is my brother-in-law. He actually owns more linear footage that butts up to this property than anybody that I know of surrounding this property. He's sick tonight, he couldn't be here. And he's been sick for about 2 weeks, unfortunately. I'd just like to echo what both of them have said. It shocked me. I'm sitting in the corner over here. We get to a situation where we start to walk up to this podium, and the chairman says, "No, you need to go back. We need to hear from our staff." Well, I can understand that. Maybe they had some questions. I can completely understand that. But what I can't understand is when the staff member walks away and the chairman says, "Okay, we need to come up with anybody want to make a motion?" And I'm sitting in that chair going, and then and unfortunately, and I got a pretty caring voice, I said, "Oh, we hadn't got to tell our part of this yet," and was completely ignored. I walked right in front of the chairman, right there, when everybody was getting up and they were dismissing each other. And I said, "Why didn't we get a chance to tell the side of our story?" I've been in this county for 48 years. I've been to numerous council meetings over the years. I've been to numerous board and appeals meetings and on committees and off committees, and I have never seen anybody treated the way the three of us were treated that night. And what it does there, it makes you suspicious of the whole deal. You got an 800,000 square foot building going in there. Yes, it's already got expansion plans of 300,000. So everybody's all gung ho for that. But nobody's thinking about all these landowners, and all these landowners owned all their property before any of this came in. And so we did work with Joe Blanchard, and we spent hours upon hours upon hours of going over what would be the best deal for both parties. It's all in this world, it's all in what you negotiate. And we negotiated what we thought was a good deal here. Now, and I appreciate y'all taking the time tonight to hear me. But one other thing we'd have brought up during the time, or I would have brought up, this part of this land is a designated wetland. Nobody mentioned that. None of the paperwork mentions that, but it's designated, and we've had it looked at by several people and designated as a wetland. So anything that you can do to help us or consider, we'd appreciate it, but I am not pleased with the way we were treated that night as a York County citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher. At this time, do we have a motion for executive session?
Since Robert isn't here.
Chris, you said it was
Do what?
it's your responsibility.
That's right, since he's not here. Move we go into executive session for receipt of legal advice, request for settlement authority for condemnation regarding county engineering product number 15222, tract 110. Receipt of legal advice, request for authorization for condemnation regarding project number 11149-012. I would have worn my glasses if I don't know how to read something. / P029499, tract 12 and tract 13. Also a personnel matter, the auditor position, and also to receive legal advice regarding the TIF.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. We're back in from executive session. Do we have any motions?
We do. We have 3 motions. Motion 1 is a motion to provide settlement authority as discussed for project number 222, tract 110.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. The second motion relates to project number 11149-012/P029499, tract 12 and tract 13. Motion to combine, or I'm sorry, motion to proceed with condemnation regarding those projects.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, that's unanimous.
The third motion is to combine the county auditor position with the internal auditor position.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We need to return to item 2 in new business. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve by title only.
Second.
Say what it is.
We're back at number 2, new business.
He's saying you need to read it into the record.
You need to know what it is.
No, Kendrick said we don't. We're
Just say by
coming
title
back. We deferred decision on number 2, and now we're back to it.
It was read previously into the record.
Oh, okay, so it's already been read?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, do we have a second?
I think I did.
I think Britt did.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope, none. Hearing none, we have a unanimous vote.
I'm ready to go.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We are adjourned.